The dust of my grave, by Faythe, seals. It fell like dust, being blown away by the mercy of the wind. The ash that stood in my soul, that covered my eyes and kept me blinded and binded, it fell, and it blew away as if it meant nothing. It did not define me. It no longer weighed me down, the once encircling my lungs, coloring it darkly. Though I heaved, unable to breathe the truth, I still proclaimed a name with each breath. And though it collected against my bones, though it blackened my soul, the wind that day blew it away. And I heard their cruel words and their disbelief, and their sickening laughter sinking in deep. At what? About who could they hate so much? Cry out with such vigorous anger they wished for this figure to die. And I stood to look there across the mountain top of which my sin was blown away. There upon a cross a bloodied figure lay, slashed and torn apart in each and every way. And there atop his head a mocking symbol stood. Thorns for a crown, a king they claimed no one would obey. For where were his people? His father most of all. A son of God, yet he wore no jeweled shawl. And upon his shoulders, seeping in his wounds, the dust of which I once bore was there. Bare was he now, bloodied as I stared. And yet the day he closed his eyes I thought to dare. I would not have mocked him. I would not have sneered. I would have screamed, "You are fools! This is just unfair!" And then I looked to those who hung beside him, who held dust of their own, lungs covered fully, unable to breathe at all. And I felt the nails in their hands, and I felt myself proclaim the same words they muttered that very same day. They did not believe it. They joined in the crowd. They persecuted him until they bled out. Their names, me, myself, and I, you, yourself, and them, and the dust that lifted off, came off of even them. But none of them could see who he was indeed, despite him telling them over and over his pleas. I am is who he claimed, yet no one understood. They simply cast him away for some greater good. When he breathed his last, when he was hauled away, no one batted an eye or even thought to say, maybe this wasn't right. Maybe we shouldn't have turned away. And so they held him, cold and entombed, though foolish were they to think his soul rested there in that dark room. And so I looked across the boulder they had laid, covering in darkness a body pure as white, ironic, some might say. And silence filled the land, all hope seemed grave. Down below the depths hell gave such a great hooray, but little did they know, or anyone I should say, that 3 days it would take, and the grave would be beat, we'd be saved. As hopeless hearts looked onward, as women went to pray the following few days, the entombed stone had been rolled away, and though I continued to cough, though dust rested in my sores, forgiveness was given, and I was restored. And when these women realized the body was nowhere to be found, they turned to each other, though no one dared make a sound. But how could a body get up and walk around? And I turned my head in disbelief at how this could be a true son of God who'd beaten the grave, and why? For me. And if the crowd had known what his purpose was to be, I wonder would they have sneered to the very same degree. For the dust in my lungs was gone, and I could finally breathe, despite it returning now and then. With his mercy I was free. And I turned to look up. Ascending there was he, promising to return for those who believed. For he had beaten sin, he had beaten death, he had beaten all of hell, and his return was the final step. And I breathed his name in song and word. No longer was I chained, in the Messiah I was found, and upon the hilltop of which the blood turned white, a war was waged, and the victor was in sight. The dust was cast away, the sin and the tears, no longer was I aching for it all to disappear, and I turned to cast my sights upon the cross of which he lay. And I saw in his death my grave was cast away. Free was I of hardship, free was I of pain, free was I, and the only cost was that I'd follow him in his way. So I looked up to the sky, proclaiming who I was, a child of God who would gladly fight for his cause. And there in that moment, the groundwork was laid. The battle was not over, yet I was already and forever saved. Though torn and passed around, be it as it may, I know in the one true Christ I will be okay. For his name holds power over shame, and I solemnly swear, with each breath I give, to fight the devils they cannot live. So hear me now, Hell, I will proclaim it here today. He has beaten sin and grave. Cower away! You cannot stand before him, nor can you win. Jesus Christ has freed me from my sin. I know who I am. Here it is today. My Lord and Savior, who I will follow for eternity, I pray. So look up to the skies, to where he will return. Feel the dust fall off you. Let it blow away. Sin and grave were beaten on this Easter day. The Dust of My Grave by Faythe Seals.